Hello, this is Professor Hernandez once again doing another demo on Photoshop. This time I am using a pre-existing piece. This one is a style sheet slash model sheet for Popeye as created for the Fleischer Studio cartoons of the 1940s and 30s. This is an original design by them of the classic comic strip character. We're going to do some flats, and we're also going to work a little bit on the character. I actually did some pre-work on this piece. As you can see, I've created some layers right over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the central figure and also on the side figure, and also talk a little bit about how to set up your colors for a color key for your figures. I didn't quite go directly with the same colors that are pre-exist on Popeye. I just worked a little bit of a variation for it. For this activity, we're going to be using our pen tool, our color drop to select different colors. We're going to use probably a gradient tool, not quite yet, our eraser, of course, our selectors right up here. And also we'll be focusing and defocusing. And of course our color palette. So we'll be moving in and out. The piece has already been scanned in and placed. It's actually more of a lower piece. As you can see, I've already placed the original inks on top and placed them under multiply. Remember, you need to place your original inks onto the multiply stage so that your colors can appear throughout. I actually been working on this character right here, this version of Popeye, and I've already added a couple things. I did a shirt layer as well as his sleeves and a little bit of the shirt top, and I'd already been working on him for just a little bit. As you can see, I've created layers to kind of begin that process. So with that in mind, I'm going to move on to this center character right here, and I'm going to also work on his shirt. I'm going to go ahead and pick my selector right over here, select my color tone for his shirt, and same as I did with the first piece, I'm going to just start coloring, placing colors down. And if you did not see my previous video on using the Hawk Pride character to do a head bust in color, the first thing that I do is I do my flats. These are flat colors that will serve, oop, I pressed my eraser by accident, that will serve to basically establish our color base for our figures. Once you see my marker demo, you'll see that I tend to work from lights to darks. This is true normally in most pieces. Sometimes with Photoshop, though, I do work from base colors out, simply because you can add lighter tones and darker tones on Photoshop using layers. I should mention that I do color in layers. Some people color in channels. I think those people are magicians. I just don't do it. I'm not comfortable with it, or I'm not, just need a little bit more practice on it. Next, I'm going to go to my sleeves and pants layer, and I'm going ahead and select the color for sleeves and pants. And while I'm at it, I might as well also reselect the regular blues just in case I go back to them. But I'm in my sleeves and pants layer. I'm going to select my brush, and again I'm going to color in my character right here. Okay, and just coloring in. So this is kind of like the boring part of doing this, but I actually like this stage, the flats part, because it kind of gives you a good layout as to how the figure will essentially look based on natural colors. And also because, well, considering the type of characters that you're drawing, like say Popeye, sometimes flats is all you really need as a full color. You'll notice that I'm working my pen size at a specific size. I went with a 12-point tip just because this is a lower you can go away now, thank you. This is a lower res piece, so it doesn't require larger forms of larger nibs, but if you want to change your pen size, you can go right up here and change the size ratio of it. You can also hit your brackets on your keyboard and change it there. But since I tend to use my tablet very much like a tablet when I'm working in Photoshop, I tend to work a lot off of the main frame of the main screen. You'll notice also I'm coloring a little bit over the lines. As we said before, don't worry about that because these are layers. We can always erase, and we can always back and kind of fix that as we go, which is what I'm going to do with the other guy over there. I'm going to go ahead and select my select tool. I'm going to collect my colors for the shirt top, and I'm going to go ahead and color that. Bring it much closer. And you can tell this is a lower resolution piece because as we get closer, you can see that it's more pixelated. So if you're working for cartooning purposes, say a daily production of comics or web comics or something like that, flats are generally the height of what it is that you're going to be working on for the most part, simply because you don't have a lot of time to start shading everything. However, you may also want a little bit more depth, especially if you're working like full monthly comics or you're working with characters that have a lot more detail connected to them. I'm going to go ahead and underneath that, I'm going to go to my background layer and create a layer underneath. I'm going to put skin tone. Skin tone. Boom. We're going to go over here. We're going to find a decent setup for his skin. There we go. That should work nicely. And back to our pen. We're in the skin tone layer. You can color in Popeye. As I said in my previous video, I tend to make noises when I draw, so yeah, deal with that. As we spoke about in class, or for those who aren't in my class and just happen to be listening to this, Popeye first made his appearance in 1929 in a comic strip called Thimble Theater. Thimble Theater predated Popeye by a good 10 years, all the way from 1919. It was very much a seaport comedic slice of life type comic strip. It had different characters, but it also involved the oil family, so it had olive oil already preset, as well as some of the other characters that are still present in the Popeye story, like Wimpy. But once Popeye showed up, he kind of took over the strip, and it became more of a comedic / action adventure type strip of sorts. And, you know, within a year or two, really, he was already starring in movies and pushing spinach on everybody. He was really like the big character over at Paramount Cartoons, paired up with Betty Boop And I think, was Bosco part of that setup? I'm trying to remember. He started showing up in cartoons all the way, if I remember correctly, from 1930. I'm trying to remember if it's 30 or 32. He first showed up in a Betty Boop cartoon titled Popeye the Sailor. And then that served like a pilot. And then afterwards, he showed up in his own cartoon and became a megastar. And so at the beginning, he sort of became... Let me draw the pipe right now. Remember to name all your layers. Anyone who works after you regarding these projects will probably thank you profusely if you just take the time to name those layers. Color it like a bit of yellow. Lower my size. So yeah, Popeye ran all the way till around, I mean, goodness, he actually survived the cuts from the 1940s and into like TV into the 50s with like lower and 60s even. But he survived a few changes. In the 40s, when Max and Dave Fleischer were quote unquote shown the door at Paramount, he started his cartoons sort of changed. That's where you get the navy suit that some people know Popeye as, and that's because he basically joins the war effort. He starts fighting the Japanese and the Nazis, which is interesting. And a lot of people do remember those cartoons more vividly. To be perfectly honest, those were the ones that were shown when I was a kid in Puerto Rico. Some of them just flat out don't age well. I did say he fights the Japanese, but they were interesting. They're interesting in terms of little time capsules. Just because they show where the country is in terms of like time periods based on what Popeye was doing. But yeah, I mean, he's still very popular, but you know, his best days kind of have gone, I think, although one can never be too sure. Popeye's still a pretty popular character. So let's pull back a little bit. See, we start getting a sense of who Popeye is right there. I'm going to go ahead and make his shoes. I'm going to put his shoes right behind his shirt. Shoes. Well, that's unfortunate. I meant the right shoes. There you go. Go ahead and put that in here. Okay. Go down. But you get the idea right now, since doing layers for the most part. We can sort of draw the shoes all the way through like so. Right there. Go. Also, I'm going to include part of the belt there. Okay, let me go ahead and add to the shoe line. Okay, so we're gonna pick the shoe color. Well, I guess it was already picked. I'm gonna make it just a little darker. Right there. I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna color this part right here, and also his heel. Now, with a character like this, the best thing about this drawing is that the line weight is so strong in terms of like how it bends and makes the character feel, goes from thick to thin and cleanly defines the character, that I don't really have to do a heck of a lot with regards to coloring. But we'll still discuss it just a little bit. Okay, let me go back to the regular shoe real quick. And then just go back in real quick and color in that corner. Okay. Let me find my eraser again. You notice I just keep going back and forth on the stuff, like bits and pieces, just to make sure that everything is colored in. Oh boy. Oh wait. Dummy. There we go. We have the shoes and the belt. I'm gonna pick a lighter version of this for the pant brim, and then I'm gonna go over leave some pants and create pant brim. I'm gonna go right here. Okay. And right here. And brim right there. And I'm also going to add to that hat brim. Now, normally I tell you to make these separate layers, but I'm using economy of lines. We can also use the same yellow from the pipe. That's the pipe, and then we can also call that here button. Buttons, and we can kind of jump from there to a little bit more of a brighter yellow and go in here, color that right there, go in here, color that right in there, there, include the buckle there. Okay. There we go. There's a nice little Popeye. Let me go back in and find my belt, which was my shoe line. So use the same one for right here. That's right, I guess I have to go to my pants and just erase a little bit there. Right there, as well as right there. Just to clean things here and there. We go to my shirt right here in the corners and just kind of just a little bit. As you can see, that's pretty much a Popeye right there. So if we wanted to indicate what colors were used for this Popeye, what I would suggest is, oh, I'm starting to turn the page a little bit. Over in the corner, you can create little boxes like so. Pick your colors on your paint bucket, and then just drop in the color right there. Undo. Create another box. Pick another one of your colors. And just keep doing that until you cover all of your colors. You can set them up all together or just repeat the boxes themselves. Like, I'm kind of enjoying making the boxes one after another, to be honest with you. Just find your key colors, the ones that you know you use the most. The ones that are present right here are definitely the ones that you want to incorporate as part of a key. Now, what's so important about this? Well, the main reason you want to have these colors present is, let's say you're working with a group or you're working with a team and you're trying to cement how best to draw your characters, how best to work your characters out. The key would then be to make sure that they stay consistent in every which way they can. Remember, you did use two different yellows. Alrighty. Especially when you're dealing with like animation or creating production or whatnot, you definitely want to have a main color key as to how best to represent your characters. Remember, this color's a little different too. You could also be well served by putting your warm colors together and your cold colors together as well. That way you can create a nice little layout of colors as you keep going all the way throughout. You can also create different notes outside of each color just to make sure that your figures are actually working all the way through. But you basically want to maintain a sort of pre-existing standard as to what colors are best. Now you can call it here. As you can see, I didn't color the hat because white is also a color, so you don't have to. If you want to leave the cap white, that works perfectly. Now you can pretty much leave the character as is right there, or you can add a little bit of lights and shadows to it if you want to. If that were the case, we can go to the skin tone, for example, and add another layer, and put down. Oh, it's not letting me write a little note. Let's see about. This guy telling me. Okay. Take my keyboard off real quick. My tablet's giving me a little bit of trouble. There we go. Let me go over here and let's go closer to Popeye. I'm going to select his skin tone and just go a little darker, just a little darker, just to give him a little bit of shadows. Since the line weight is the heaviest down there, I'm going to assume that those are his darkest colors, so his darkest shadows. So with a character like this, where he doesn't have a lot of lines put down, you don't necessarily have to add too much in the light and shadow to give it a little bit more heft. You can literally go some very soft lines, and that already gives him some weight. I see some things I want to fix already. Shirt, buttons, shirt top. There we go. Popeye. Now, if we pull back a little bit, just with that little bit of color schematics, you can kind of see. I don't know if you can clearly see how much I changed. Let me make a darker tone of that. Just lift it up just a little bit, and hopefully this will translate just a little bit more. See, there we go. See that just a little bit better. But yeah, if you notice, to create lights and shadows on Popeye, not a heck of a lot of extra coloring. Especially considering, yeah, I didn't like that one. Oh wait, accidentally got out of the wrong layer. There we go. Erase that one. As you can see, just very light on the shading, and you can already give him a nice little pop. Except with the hat brim. We go into the hat a little bit, maybe select that color, just get it a little darker. And there you go. Just a little bit in the corner there, and just leave it a little lit in the side. You can even go a little darker in the corners. Just a little bit over here. Let's see. It already gives him a little bit of a nice context of light and shadow right there. So for the most part, we can keep going through the whole figure and kind of doing similar things just to give him a little bit of weight and a little bit of size, but that's about it. With regards to characters like this, when they're a little bit simpler, you can definitely just sort of create your character, create the color tones, and then kind of play with where your lights and shadows are. Remember, the line weight will determine a lot where your shadows are going to be. If you notice, this thicker on this side, so the lights are coming against that corner, so it'll be more shadow into this point. Same deal with the face. That's why I decided that the shading was coming from the upwards downwards, so it gives you a nice little sense of like light and shadow right there. I'll be making a few more demos like this for Photoshop, as well as for some marker work. I'm posting them for our class, for our classes, because I'm putting them both my classes. But as always, if anyone has questions, feel free to email me at eahernandez@umes.edu. We can also discuss stuff in class, and if you happen to not be in my class and just watching this, well then feel free to contact me as well, either at my school email, which I just said, or at eahernandez75@gmail.com with questions. Thank you. Have a good night, and see you next class.